had the lady from running Longmire Days who said, when you write this email, and I sat down with her, I said, make sure there's a couple of spelling mistakes. There's some grammatical errors. And there was, you know, we gave $10,000 to the search and rescue, so we're not mentioning that. We're mentioning the $500 to the children's acting troupe, and the $500, whatever it was, to the animal shelter. We just got to emphasize it's a small town. It's a regular thing. It's centered around the fellow that wrote the books, that lives here, and is a loved local person, and the town is the town in the books. And we have a commitment, and none of us get paid, and all the money goes to charity. So for one of the rare times, common sense prevailed. However, it's, you know, got an email from say can't talk about the show, which is weird. And I'm not permitted to produce photos of myself and sell them to you that I signed.
Or dress up like the character.
And that's the third thing, I can't dress up like the character.
And you guys can't dress up like the character either.
Yeah, there's some Mardi Gras or something.
It's getting weird, isn't it?
And I've never in my life sold anyone a photo for, I think it's kind of weird that you would charge people to pay. And we're not getting paid, but we're here enjoying it. So they said yes, but so I can talk about the show. And things, you know, whatever.
Well, I mean, the title of this particular event is The Two Walts, right? Or what is it? It changed this year, though. Is it something different? What is it? Tales of Walt. Okay. So we can talk about Walt, is what we can talk about, right? Is that, why are you shaking your head, Kathy Norris? Why are you doing that? Tale of Craig and Rob? What now? I guess it's like talking to a kindergarten. Different answers here. So what is it? Oh, okay. All right. Well, we can do that. Like, but also the common ground is like that. This is basically well, we're missing one wall. George Waddell, who does the audiobooks, is the other wall. Okay, and I'm gonna. You know, I've been trying my level-headed best to get him out here. Like the furthest west he goes is like, you know, the Hudson River. But anyway, we can answer any questions you might have about Walt. I think. Okay, so I can talk about it any way I want because it's character in the books and all that. But I'm sure Robert can talk about his approach like that too. Yeah. So. Do you guys want to just ask questions and do the whole thing like that way? Well, there's one answer right there. Did Rob sell you that picture of himself?
I came here last year to the charity with your cousin from New Zealand, and you were kind enough to take a picture with us. Would you be kind enough to sign it for us?
From New Zealand? No. She talked me in the Occidental. And I said, thank goodness you were not here yesterday. I'm loaded on Kiwi cousins.
I was feeding him. I was giving him softball.
Or softball.
You know, we can't do that right now. No, please, ma'am. No, please, let's not do that right now. Let's wait until we're over with. Because this will turn into a fiasco.
Can someone grab it from me?
So let's
Could you grab that from the lady, please? And I'll do it after. Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Questions?
Questions? Or do you want us to scramble on up here? What would you like?
Yes, sir. Yeah. That was informative. I got an older brother called Peter. He's a great guy. And I got a little sister called Nicole, who's awesome. They've each got 2 kids. A funny story. I mean, listen to stories, man. So my nephew, Joe Taylor, if you'd met him, he's older, you'd think he was a pot dealer. He had long, scraggy hair and beard. He's like, and he went to a public school. His parents wanted to send him to this private school, which he did all the maths and physics and chemistry to do that. And he didn't want to go, I knew why, because he had a girlfriend at the other one. So he went to this really rough school, and he got through, and then he got into chemical engineering, and he's doing that. They go along to graduation. He never smoked. It looks like he's stoned the whole time. So they go, and oh my goodness, I hope he gets through, I hope he gets through. So they go, he taught the university, he just never told anyone. And anyway, and now he's in Berlin. He got headhunted by Siemens, and they put him through for his master's. He's got an American girlfriend, and they're coming to Melbourne for Christmas, I'm putting them up. I don't know why I told you that story, but so I have siblings.
If anybody else needs a place to stay in Melbourne for the holidays, Melbourne's evidently providing for everyone.
Rich.
All right, you two are about the same size, give or take a little bit. Maybe next year we can arrange an arm wrestling contest between you.
Let's do it right here, right now. I've never lost one.
$10 on Johnson.
You did? Will you take $1,000 from me? I'll give you any odds you want, man. Are you serious? I've never lost one. I've never lost one, dude.
It's always funny, like, because this is easy for me to talk to, like, actually, like that, because it's interesting, because whenever like some people ask me like about the size of Walts, why is he 6'5" and weigh like 260 pounds and everything? Whenever you're around a lot of sheriffs in Wyoming and Montana, they tend to be really big guys. And the reasoning behind that is that some counties in these states are like as big as New England states. And so generally you don't get backup. You're pretty much on your own when you walk in the room. And what I've noticed is like big animals have a larger scale effect, on a heightened situation kind of thing. Like that. And so one of the things that this group I was talking to told me, said, don't get your hopes up, because pretty much everybody in Hollywood's about 5'10" or 5'8", or something like that, So don't get your hopes up. Okay. And I was like, okay, all right, that's fine, that's okay. Like that. And so I didn't pay any attention to it like that. And then there was this one time like that we were at a reception at a hotel, and I happened to be with an actor who was in the same show as the other actor in this show. And as far as I knew, that they had not met or anything like that. But when I walked in the bar, he bought me a beer, we were standing there talking, and he glanced over at the other actor like that and went, and I was like, what? Like that, he goes, he's big. I said, well, that's great, isn't it? Because the character is too, like that. And the other actor happened to be the fellow by the name of Lou Diamond Phillips. And he said, everybody thinks I'm short. And he said, now I'm going to stand next to him and they're really going to think I'm short. And I was like, well, don't stand next to him then. Like that.
I refer to him as Lou Diamond Filipino.
Yeah.
Which everybody does. He's most half Filipino. And I can talk about him. The funny thing with Lou, he's part Indian, part Filipino, but he's Irish. He's got some Irish in him, but he doesn't look at me all, gets a few drinks in him. I love you, crying, wants to kiss you. I'm a bit like that. He's Irish, man. He's so Irish. He's unreal.
Yes, sir.
Your books are based on honest law enforcement. Are you sure if you had experience in law enforcement, but it's not? How do you research that for?
I have a lot of experience with the law. The closest I ever got, I got a job down under in the state of Western Australia. I think it was the best job. There were 3 in the whole state. These days there's hundreds of them. There were 3 full-time rangers, but the area they patrolled was the beach. And every summer they put on a guy for 10 weeks, a young guy. And every young guy wanted that job. I got it. I did it 2 summers, dude. And I had all the, the powers. I never wrote one ticket. I just gave warnings. I thought it was immoral.
Most miserable failure in Australian law enforcement.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But I'd drive to work. I had this little white Jeep they gave me, with my board on top. I'd drive onto the beach. I'd go to the beach. I'd surf, I'd swim, I'd fish. It was the greatest job in the world until somebody started drowning on you, and then it's serious. But let me tell you quickly, I had the technique, man. This is my law enforcement experience, right? Oh my goodness. I was 19, and I did 2 summers, and then they offered me a full-time job. I said, I can't do it because I'll never leave. Nobody ever left that job. They couldn't believe I didn't. I said, I can't do it. I'd still be there. So, you know, here's my technique. I drive along and be cute girl. And I drive over and say, oh, excuse me, sorry to bother you. And I'm just looking for a little guy in a blue shirt, just wandered away from his mum, you know. You ever seen him? Oh no. Sorry to bother you. I drive off. And I'd go up to my buddy and say, just give it like 10 minutes, man. And I'd go back and she'd be like, woo, woo. I'd go over, did you find him? Oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah. I got him. Mom's pretty happy to see him, I can tell you. And the ice is broken, man. I mean, that was my day. And then every week, someone would come and give me an
I'll
envelope
discuss
of
the
money.
night, shall we?
Can you believe it? But I played cops. I've got to, sorry, one more story. I played cops. I think I've done more jurisdictions than any actor. I've done United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and made up stuff. I did a series in 1989 about the Royal Hong Kong Police. It's just the Foreign Legion of Police, every washed up, you know, guy with cop with a bad record would go to Hong Kong. Bunch of cowboys. That was the most fun I've ever had standing up, man, doing that one. That was so cool.
What was the name of the series?
It's called Yellow Thread Street, series of books at ITV, whatever. It was, I mean, I think I told the story that I was with the guy, Tai Ma, who's a famous, you know him, he's in, I can't remember that show. He's in every show playing the dad these days, Asian American, great guy. And we wandered off something, you know, we're smoking a cigarette, whatever we're doing. We come around the corner, the set's back, and these triad guys are, you know, hoeing into this guy. So we arrested him, you know, because we had guns, and we're loaded, handcuffs and stuff. Took it back to base camp where, you know, everything's set up with all the catering. And people were coming over and said, would you like a cup of tea? Would you need some tea? You know, because they're all English crew. And I don't think these poor triad guys knew what was going on. What do you mean? Anyway, then the real cops came and dealt with them. So yeah, that's it. You know. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm trying not to be a fan, but I'm sorry. Your personality is so bubbly, and yet on the show, you're so sullen and just, how long does it take you to get into character?
About a millisecond. You know, there's a great thing on YouTube I'd encourage you all to watch. What's that actor, that English actor, the older guy? Oh, God. You need his name to look him up. There he is, the guy with the, what's his name? He's in Pirates of the Caribbean, he's in everything. No, the older guy, much older. Who? No, I think he's possibly the greatest actor on the planet, that guy.
Jeffrey Rush.
No? That's it. Thank you, sir, Bill Nighy. So Bill Nighy, just to answer your question, and you know, I'm not talking about the specific, he's doing this interview on, somewhere in England, and they said, you know, how do you get into character? I've never been in character. I don't know what it means to be in character. It terrifies me, the thought of it. I don't have a process. I just, you know, I go on, I've got what to do, and I do it. I don't understand it. I don't understand any of that. Neither do I. I said, the more I do it, talking about acting, and it's funny, you see all these young actors that would talk about it endlessly, and I'm forever trying to negotiate my way out of showing up for rehearsals. The more I do this, and I've been doing this year, 40 years ago, I auditioned for acting school. It's a fair time to be doing something. I'm a completely different actor than I was 20 years ago. It's like it took me a lifetime to figure out, just don't do anything. Just think, just say the words, mean them. You must engage with the other person in the scene. Nothing worse than actors that come in and it's all figured out. So it's like jumping and do it. You know, you just do it. For me, it works better. Just tell the truth and just believe it. And lens will look into your soul. Just make sure your soul's engaged. Don't overcomplicate it. So no time at all. All that extraneous stuff that people spend. Oh, they go and do this and do that. I'm not ever doing that. Oh my Just do it. Just do it. I mean, people have different things. The problem is something you work with these method people and they're idiots. And then you got the ones that are all cerebral, it's all up here, and whatever, man. Just talk to me. So, no time. How long does it take you to get into character? You know, you put your makeup on, you get ready to go out dancing.
Well, my situation is a little bit different because I have to be all the characters. So that for me, like, it makes it a little bit more difficult in the sense that, you know, I mean, and then I have to think also like that about where these characters are, who they are, what time period they are. The one book that I'm writing on now takes place in 1963, so Walt Longmire is 22 years old. He's a baby. Yeah, but he also just won a Rose Bowl like that for USC, like that. So he's, you know, it's interesting like that to attack the characters, you know, from that direction like that. But as my wife Judy says, there's nobody else in the room, so I have to do all those characters at some point during time. So. Yes.
So we've heard stories about Craig, Lou Donovan. How about Candy, Vic, Ruthie? Got any good stories about the girls?
I've got dozens, but I don't think I'm not to talk about the show, that's all. I got some great, can I just say they're awesome people, I genuinely mean that. I'm ready to think about
Talk about the ladies, not the.
it. I like ladies. I'm a lady guy.
The actresses, not the characters. Don't talk about Luann and.
Oh, well, they're wonderful people, that's all I can say, and they're great at what they do, and I just adore working with them. But I do like ladies. You know, I used to. Bombs. I don't discriminate, man.
He's married to a brunette, just so you know.
Oh, she. Which one? He's all right. Yes, sir.
When you do a show or whatever, you watch yourself after. You watch
Hell no, man. No way. Never. It's excruciating. I did this BBC series. I was the lead. Shot it in Ireland, and I never forget episode 5. I think I did a pretty decent job. And I've been promising myself for 22 years, 24 years, I'm going to watch it. And I still can't bring myself to do it. I just can't do it. But because you see, you just see all the mistakes, and I don't know. And also, I find you do something, and then it's special, and you just park it. It's just there. And you do another one, and another one. I don't watch it. There's some scenes from stuff. Pretty cool. Yep.
After Buffalo, Wyoming, obviously your favorite place is Wyoming. For both of you, what are your other favorite places in Wyoming?
Right up the hill, the Bighorn Mountains, the Cloud Peak Wilderness area, all that. Like that probably is more a spiritual home than any other place. Like I've got a little cabin up there that I go up to, you know, where the moose come right up to the porch, you know. And I always warn people if they want to go stay at the cabin that then there's an outhouse. It's like there's no electricity, there's no indoor plumbing. It was built in 1896. And it's actually in the forest itself. Like when everybody goes up there, I always tell them, if you're getting ready to go out to the bathroom and it sounds like there's something out there, there's probably something out there. You make the choice as to how important it is to go out there and go to the bathroom. Like you're on your own as far as that's concerned. But yeah, that place more than maybe anything else. And then if you want a more exotic answer, like we were sure like France. France is fantastic. I mean, every time we go to Europe on the European tour, it always starts with France. And the publisher there, the translator there, they're just fantastic. So we love traveling around. Very, very different from U-Cross. Nice balance.
Mentor. Yes.
Craig, when you talk about your experience in writing the female characters, how do you do it?
You know, I really, I know this sounds a little trite, but I really don't approach the female characters that much differently from the male characters, to be honest. You know, obviously there are character traits and things like that that are going to be a little bit different. But you know, someone wrote, you know, one of the new books, like I can't remember if it was Publishers Weekly or if it was the Kirkus one, I can't remember. They mentioned the you know, really strong, independent, you know, female characters in the books, and I was like, what other kind do you know? Like, I mean, that's pretty much every woman in my life, most certainly, like that. But I kind of have to float my stick with Robert there a little bit too. I like the ladies, I have to admit, like that. And so they're really fun to write. For me, they're just really absorbing, you know, characters. And as a study, you know, I have made a study my entire life of females. I don't know if I've really gotten anywhere with this study. Like that. I really advanced, you know, my studies when I got married about 25 years ago. Like that. But you know, it's you know, because I grew up, you know, with, you know, brothers, and I grew up in a kind of more of a masculine society with football and rodeo and all that kind of stuff. And so it's always been a mysterious world for me, like that, to be intrigued by, like that. And that continues with the books. I mean, you can tell, you know, whenever Walt's in a room, like with Vic or with Ruby. I mean, there was one scene that I sent out that was actually from First Frost, the book for next year. And that's the part where Ruby is helping Walt get dressed for a grand jury appearance, like that. And the suit jacket that he's got on is like about 30 years old. And the tie might even be older than that. And he's saying, are you really sure that wearing a suit jacket and a tie is going to help? And she's like, I was until we put it on you. And I have to be honest and say that we're trying to get across an image, and the image of Stubum is not the image we're looking for. And so then Vic hangs her head and looks at him like that. You know, Walt straightens his coat like that. You know, stands up straight, looks at her and says, well, what do you think? And she goes, I have to admit that you have certain natural attributes that override this Stubum appearance. It's as much as she's willing to say as far as that's concerned. But I just really love writing those scenes. I love writing those characters like that, because to me the magic is what they are. And you know, there's certain characters obviously like that you know what's going to happen. They're going to pop when they come into a scene. Two of the big ones in the book are Henry and of course Vic. I always know something's going to happen whenever they come into the room for a scene like that. And so it's a blast to write those characters, I have to admit.
Make sure he pays. Yes, ma'am.
Craig, how did you end up at U-Cross and how long have you been there?
I've been there about 30 years, and how I got there was I delivered horses down in Montana. There was a rancher I was working for near Dillon, and they were delivering some horses from Oklahoma. And I was working with this rancher, and he said, hey, you know, you need to load up the 8 stall, like I put the horses in, like that. He said, drive down to U-Cross. I don't know how they chose U-Cross, like that, but he said, drive down to U-Cross and then unload the horses, like that, and just wait for the guy to show up. I got down here, and the guy wasn't there. And so I called him up on the phone, and I said, he's not here. Like, and he goes, yeah, he hadn't left yet. And I was like, from Oklahoma City, he hasn't left yet? He's like, yeah, I got kind of slowed down. Like, and I said, well, what do you want me to do? Like, he says, well, they got a corral. He said, just unload the horses in the corral, bucket up, you know, from in the bathtub that they've got for a horse trough. Like, and, you know, it's bailing season, so go get a couple idiot cubes, a couple 75-pound bales from the local ranchers, and, you know, the horses will be fine. And I said, well, that's all fine and well for the horses, but what about me? And he said, well, they've got a bar. And they did. A little bar out there at U-Cross, like a U-turn in, which was an old gas station that they turned into a bar. And I slept, you know, up on top. It was bailing season, so everybody needed help. And that was back in the day when everybody had the small bales. Like, so, you know, these were 75-pound bales, so you had to throw those like that. And And I just, you know, I would be there, you know, and the ranchers pull up in their truck. I'd be sleeping on top of the horse trailer, you know, with a saddle, you know, for a pillow like that. And they'd yell up at me and say, "You want a day's work?" And I'd say, "Sure." Like that, you know, I'd go down and work for them all day. Like I'd come back out, and then they'd take me into the bar and buy me a cheeseburger and fries and as many beers as it took for me to come stumbling out and crawl back up on top of the horse trailer again. Like I just remember laying there, looking up and seeing those stars, seeing those great big 100-foot, you know, bright golden, you know, cottonwood trees and snow up on the Bighorn Mountains and everything. And I just thought, man, if I ever get the chance, you know, this is where it is that I'm going to be. And I was able to scrape together enough money like that and buy 1 hectare, about 260 acres adjacent to BLM land, and built the house. Built the house and built, you know, everything that's there. I built all of it. I can take you out there and take you on a tour and show you all the mistakes that I made when I was building it. But yeah, and then it was funny, of course, like because when the books took off and the TV show and all that, and all of the local ranchers asked me, they said, you know, well, when are you going to move to New York or LA? And I was like, I built 1 ranch. When they carry my dead body out of this ranch, that's when I'll be going somewhere else. Yeah.
You mentioned that they sent you videotape of the auditions on the show.
Uh-huh.
How much,
The unnamed show, yes.
the unnamed show, yeah. How much input did you have and how did that out? People you prefer get cast and how much did you listen to?
Every single person I wanted, we got.
Wow.
Yeah, every single one of them, and that was pretty surprising, I guess. You know, because the producers obviously had some very strong ideas about, you know, who they thought, and then when they shipped me all those boxes of DVDs, and I'm watching all those auditions and everything like that, I was like, yeah, this guy, like, yeah, her.
How many, for each character, how many people do you think watched auditions?
Oh God, I mean, some were a lot more than others. You know, some they had like some really direct ideas of like, you know, what they had to have. One of the obvious ones would be LDP. And the way they explained it to me was that they had somebody go on to the Tonight Show. They needed somebody who was a big enough name like that people would know who they were when they came in and sit down. And how about this guy? If we use LDP for this character like that, then we can have him to kind of fill that role. It's kind of interesting like that because there are a lot of things that go into it that you really aren't aware of. You know, how the actors match up together, how they all look together. You know, I mean, there's a lot of little things like that. What role will they play in the publicity and the marketing process? You know, all these type of things that, you know, I don't know if Robert ever thinks about that stuff, but certainly I don't ever think about that stuff. And so it was kind of fun to watch and see how they did what they did. And then what was the tail end of the question? What was it? It was...
Oh, it's just like about how many people per character did you watch it?
Oh, obviously the one that had the most was Walt. And it, you know, it ran the gamut. You know, it really ran the gamut from like really incredibly big names to people that you'd never heard of before. He can say that, but he can't really say that because he was seen and known. So.
I was wondering if they ever crossed the mind to get with CJ Box and have Longmire and
So I got some news there. You know, which I can talk about. I'm going on to a show that shoots in Australia. It's a Netflix show, but the contract is already signed for the strike, and it's under different. The overarching body in this country is different to that one. So we're going ahead, and I'm really excited to do it with some big cattle ranching dynasty in Australia called Desert King. Shoots in the middle of nowhere in the Northern Territory, which, you know, at the top in the Southern Hemisphere. I had to explain this to John Bishop today. You know. Anyway, you know, it gets hot at the near the equator. I would think that's pretty common knowledge. Brown Johnny. And
John has led a varied lifestyle with a lot of experimentation, I think.
So that's the show, I'm not gonna say the name, but, so the guy that's the lead in that show, right? I've never seen it. I believe he's playing my son, my idiot son. And I tell him frequently, you're an idiot. That's great, it's a big sweeping thing, a bunch of episodes, and out there in the middle of nowhere. It's gonna be fun, big, it's, you know, it's a Western, just not shooting here. There's a West there too.
I'd have to define your question. Were you asking TV or were you asking books? Which one? Either one. I can answer the book part. We're with different publishers. And the other thing is like I have absolutely no desire to work with somebody to write a book in my entire career. I will be honest with you. I can almost just about make you a promise that if I write for another 30 years, I will not ever do a team book with anybody. I mean, I'm a dictator. I like doing things the way I like to do it. The way I want it to be, and all that. And that's too much freedom to give up. Even if it was another author from the same state or anything. The other thing is, like, I don't think our books are very much alike. I mean, he basically writes thrillers. I write mysteries. Like, he writes page turners. Like, I tend to write more, character-driven stuff. Like, and so I think we would come to blows pretty easily, like that, about how the story should be told. Whatever, and then the two publishers that wouldn't know how to tear the document apart, as to who would get their half. So, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm originally from the South. I was curious if you could do a Southern accent for me. I was randomly that
I don't do it for people because I get performance anxiety. Unlike my friend over here at the auction the other night, he was on fire. No, I don't want to do that, but I can do any accent if I've got time to work on it. And actors that can't do it are lazy. They're just lazy.
Like some of them, though, like
I've done it a bunch of times.
it's also a question of like being able to hear.
If you've got an ear for it, great. I guess it's like music. But if you're prepared to work on it for 12 hours a day for 10 years, you're going to get great at it. Just work harder, man. That's all. Yes.
Are Westerns made in combat? Are you going to be seeing Westerns?
Let's hope so.
Well, I think the show that shall not be named was kind of on the front edge of that, Whenever I'm doing talks with the Western Writers of America, which is all the guys that are doing like all the Western, style novels and everything, I always tell them like that. I've told them for years, this like for the last 20 years or so, I've made the statement like that where I'm like, look, don't try and write like Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey, because Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey were pretty good at writing about Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey. Try to do something different. Try to do something in some way different. You can use the genre, you can use Western, but try and do something different like that. And so the example I always use is that, Longmire is a Western, but it's a contemporary Western. It's a modern Western. And so when you look at all the shows that popped up after Longmire did, they're all, the vast majority of them, contemporary Western, modern day. So that's where we kind of broke some new ground, I think, as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those enduring genres that's going to continue on. I have to be honest with you, I don't believe in genre. I don't think there is such a thing as genre. The only genre is what marketing and publicity people use to stick your book in so that they can sell it. That's what they do. There's only two genres of books: good books and bad books. What you should do is try and read the good ones and not read the bad ones like that. But as a genre, Westerns have been attacked periodically. And we get told, oh, that's it, the Western is dead. This is the reiteration is over. There's no way to rewrite the Western. There won't be any more new Westerns, and that's the end of it. And then, inevitably, a year or two later, another Western comes out that is really good, and everybody wants to do it, and the Western started all over again. So I don't know if it is an indestructible storyline or not, but it sure seems as though it's gone on for quite some time.
Community garden. I'm president of a community group in Australia. It's a piece of land. It's parkland, and the government's going to sell it off. in the inner city, and that offended me and another guy. So we broke in there and cleaned it up and planted a huge crop of sunflowers. And then now it's, turned into this huge thing, and people, we just had Singapore National Parks there studying us. And it's become, it's won all the awards, and it's self-funded, we're independent, we fund all these other groups. But we also, it's just at the end of my street. I mean, I'm deputy president for my 24th year. I'm gagging to get out of there, but they didn't know where to go, but I'm happy to, just on the phone yesterday, yeah, it's just a bit of fun. We do all kinds of stuff there. Around.
Didn't you win an award? Didn't you get a big medal for that?
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Sometimes when I work in Australia, just to annoy me, they call me Sir Robert. You get some letters after your name in it. Oh yeah.
You get best seat at the restaurant.
I don't know. Seems to be a lot of old guys get that. Find that club.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. We're talking about Honey Hillerman. Excuse me, and his daughter is continuing the series, is that correct?
She is, but she did it in a very unique and ingenious, remarkable way. She took, first of all, she waited a reasonable amount of time. I mean, it always makes me sick whenever these, estates that own the rights to some author's works hire somebody the year after they're dead and have some stranger writing their books, for God's sakes, a year after they're dead. For goodness sake, at least let them get cold in the grave before you start, taking advantage of their work. Okay? And Anne was like that. This was a big transition, for her father, for her, for the books, for everything. So she took her time. And so I think she waited like about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years before she even tried to do this like that. And then what she did was, which I thought was really remarkable and very, very intelligent, was the fact that she took 2 minor characters from her father's books and made them the main characters in her books. And then the characters from Tony's books were the good support characters, for her new characters. And I think that was remarkably, it was remarkably smart, the way that she did it. And yes, she has like that. And now I think she's on book like number 5, 6, something like that, maybe 7. I'm not sure. But yes, Anne's a good friend. I know Anne very well.
Would you see somebody carrying on your book?
No way. No way. When I'm gone, Walt Longmire is gone. I've warned Judy, and I've warned our kids, don't even think about it. I will come back from the grave. You don't want that. I don't know. I just think it's kind of, this is my personal opinion. Okay, so this is just my thoughts on this. I think it's kind of cheesy. I mean, you don't see artists, doing, well, now I will do a Picasso for you. It's a Picasso by Bob, like that. Well, it's just kind of cheesy. I mean, if you're an artist, and you do your work, you do your work and then you finish, like that. And even if it's like unfinished, like that, well, that's the body of work, is what it is. Like, and now we're so driven by, the monetary aspect of it, that like nobody can let go of a series of books because it's like printing money, like that. So we've got to continue that. And I don't think that's quite right. I think it's a little, You're determined, so you.
Well, it's on that same vein. So how many more Longmire books do you think you have in your writing, or do you have a number?
I don't really think about it a whole lot. Like, I mean, that's like asking me how long am I going to be alive, And I hope I got another like 30 years in me is what I'm hoping for. And if I do, there'll be 30 more Walt Longmire, full-length novels, more collections of the short stories, and more novellas. This is kind of interesting, and I have to be careful how I tell this story. you know, whenever there's a certain actor that played a certain role in a certain series of books, and I was with him one time, like, and we were having a discussion, and somebody said to him, they said something about, you know, his portrayal and everything like that, and it was kind of like, he kind of knocked me back on my seat because his response was, he said, you know, the thing is like, you know, it's like any other piece of literature. Like, I mean, you know, look at Shakespeare. How many Henry V's have there been? How many Hamlets have there been? You know, he says, and he said, you know, we don't know how many Walt Longmires are there going to be. You know, it was very poetic and very philosophical. And then he looked at the audience and said, but I'm the first one.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, and Robert, I don't know if you can respond to it, but I'm curious about the synergy between the two Walt's, the character that you developed and the character that you developed, Greg. And maybe just to begin with, I would say this. I began reading Longmire before the series came on, and I had an image of Walt Longmire. But now, my Walt Longmire is Robert Steele. So when I read Yellow Bag,
One for you.
when I read Yellow Bag, it was Robert Taylor that was laying in the middle of the road.
Best question ever. You don't answer it. You do.
What was the question in there? A lot of statement, but what was the question?
Did Robert Taylor influence your more recent development of Walt Longmire?
No, you know, there's a divorced kind of quality between the books and the TV, because see, I'd written the books for like about 8 years before the TV show came along, and an awful lot of the characters in the books are based off of people I know, I've worked with, and things like that. So it's very difficult for the actors to supplant, you know, those characters like that. But then what's interesting, and I think I was talking about this morning, was that as the actors have become friends, they've popped up as other characters in the books, like, or in other projects or things like that. And so that's been kind of interesting to see too. But yeah, no, I mean, the example I always use is Peter Weller, who did, you know, such a wonderful job with Lucian. But Lucian is my dad. So as wonderful as Peter Weller might be, he's never going to supplant, you know, the voice that I hear from my father. Like that, you know, I mean, I know what my dad would say in any given situation, you know, and the tone he would use and everything. And so it's kind of a shortcut, obviously, like that, for a writer to be able to utilize that. But it's very cemented in. Like that, I mean, you know what your dad sounded exactly like. You don't have to worry about what it is that he would say. You know exactly what he would say. And so it's a little bit too much of a shortcut to give up, to be honest, I have to admit.
Sure.
For you, Robert, do you do all your own stunts when you're making a movie, or?
Yeah, man. I do it all, man. I do it for Tom Cruise. I do all the tough stuff, you know, sit at the table, order a drink. What have you done to your foot? Well, yeah, I mean, within reason, you know, the reason they have stunt people is you get hurt and everybody's out of a job. So you can be stupid about it. And, you know, typically, if you're making a TV show somewhere, for argument's sake, you're moving very quickly. If you're making a big movie, you could spend a week doing a minute and 30 seconds. We were, you know, if you were making a TV show, you know, you may want to shoot it in 7 shooting days. And big movies, I've been on movies that gone for 5 months. So, yeah, I mean, I do, but you know, I'm not as young as I used to be. Give me a break. You do it. I didn't do great these days, man.
I'm actually the same day and same year in Drake.
You were?
January
You're related? He looks like you.
Separated at birth.
Yes.
I will say, Greg, when you jumped off the stage early this morning, you got that hand. It would never.
Well, talk to me like about a month ago, like that whenever I hadn't done any firewood or any hay or anything like that. There's a cycle that we go through, as cowboys, where in the wintertime you'll put on a couple extra pounds like that. And then Judy and I have discovered this thing we call the French 15, which is when you go to France and you haven't dieted, and lost about 10 or 15 pounds before you get back, and you gain those 15 pounds, and then you get back and have to go on the diet after you get back from France. And so we fought that battle, and so I've dropped about maybe 22, 23 pounds, since we got back from France. Like just because of the work, just working and stuff. So I'm in a little bit better shape than I was about a month ago. So talk to me again in November too.
Fellow, you were first up, yeah. You.
What are your favorite Western movies?
Unforgiven. Yeah.
The Magnificent Seven, which is better than, I'm gonna go on record here. It's better than the Seven Samurai. And one of the reasons is Eli Wallach. He's incredible in that movie. I consider it basically it was a warm-up for the work that he was going to do in all the spaghetti westerns that he did with Clint Eastwood, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and all of that. But the problem with Seven Samurai is it's a great movie and all that. The bad guys are completely invisible. They're just like a horde of guys riding behind some fences, off in the distance, and they don't ever have any dialogue or anything. And Eli Wallach in The Magnificent Seven has some of the best lines in the whole damn movie. Even his last line that he has is he's laying there dying, riddled with bullets, and he's looking at these guys and he's like, you, why are you here? It's just magnificent writing is what it is.
And I just have to point out that the fellow that asked the question got a good chat the other night about England playing Australian cricket for the oldest sporting trophy on the planet. And I guess my guys won. Guess what happened? It got rained off. You're buying, man. Yes, sir.
So let's say you play a cop, and you're serious. But towards the end, when you count the bad guy, you've got the good side, and you're now in a position to tell it.
Sounds like a great show.
This is a pitch, is what this is.
Let's do it.
All of a sudden, you can humorless and win. But while you're telling the guy, smile. Now, is that a scripted thing or is that a
Both. It can be both.
Do we have the question?
Oh, well, the question was the pitch for a series. No, I guess it'd be fair to say you were asking if, you do something in a scene, is it, the nuance, is it scripted or is it, do you just do it? Both. I said yesterday that, when you work on a show, and it could be any show in the script, you don't feel the need to you just do it. It's great if you're spending your time trying to figure stuff out. But you also, you've got to make stuff your own. You're talking about writers, especially young writers. They want to hang on to every word, and some of the older ones too. You've got to let the actors do it. However they're going to do it, you just got to hire the right people. But you want people that are going to find stuff constantly. And really good directors just get out of your way.
I'm sure you've heard this about a number of times. You say you're
So it's just a more, I do stuff in every single scene that's not scripted, every moment. and what's going on inside my brain and my heart is not scripted. You know, you've got to own stuff, and you just got to be real. And then, you know, I have to tell you a story. I do stuff all day long that's not scripted, and then they pretend it was scripted. I did something the other day in a show that's not part of the union, and you know, the show hasn't been released yet, and everyone's been talking about this scene and this thing, and it's somehow morphed into all these genius producers and the director, and I totally made it up, man. I made it up, and I knew it was effective, I knew it really worked, it was powerful, but and it doesn't matter, as long as it works. You can claim it had nothing to do with you. Trust me. That lady?
Yes, this is for Craig. Our last name is Longmire. We're wondering how you came up with the name.
Did you invite me to a family
I
reunion?
did not.
Because everybody else in America that's name is Longmire has invited me to a family reunion. I keep having to write him and tell him, my name is Johnson, you know that, right? So I really want anything to add, but it's really kind of interesting, how often it happens. I didn't have any idea there were that many Longmires out there. There actually turned out to be quite a few, actually. I don't know, there were a couple of different things. First of all, for me, the big thing is that one of my favorite authors, I have so many, this is another one of them, is Charles Dickens. And one of the things he was very, very good at was names. He was very, very good at names. He could give you the name of the character, and you knew the character. You didn't have to have a description. You didn't have to hear anything about them. If I say the name Scrooge, you know what that character is like. Okay. And so for me, here I had this guy whose wife had been dead, for 4 or 5 years. He's kind of estranged from his daughter, who lives 2,000 miles away. He's kind of disconnected from his job. He's kind of on his way out in many ways. And so he's been into this incredible, seat of depression for such an amazingly long time. Longmire. Now, the reason I tell you that is because I'm being respectful to you. If I'm unrespectful to you, I always say, any Western name, all you have to do is stick it before a steakhouse. And if it sounds good, then that's a good Western name. Albert is now trying to figure out a franchise for Longmire Steakhouses is what he's doing.
I'm daydreaming about a guy called John Longmire that you've never heard of.
I do too.
Who is the coach of my football team, Australian Rules, and the team, the Sydney Swans, but they used to be the South Melbourne Swans, and my dad played for that team. They made me an ambassador of that team. I didn't ask to be, but they made me one. So I adore the name Longmire, John Longmire. Call him Horse. Oh, the Kiwi.
Thank you for creating this amazing character that we all love and getting all the years watching TV shows and multiple reruns. And thank you for choosing Australia to play.
You really domesticated on that. That was hard for you to say.
So I also want to say for the end of the series, thank you for letting us keep that fantasy alive of did he find a treasure, did he come back, and just end the series. So thank you.
Is there a question in there? Just checking.
Just checking, man. That was pretty good, actually.
With a lovely accent, I didn't mind listening to it for as long as you wanted to talk.
Yes, sir.
Talk about one of your characters coming from.
I'm Craig.
You talk,
Okay.
but you talk about all these characters, and you know what character came out from your feature books is Rob Taylor.
That hasn't happened yet. And it probably won't be a Longmire book either. I've got an idea, I've got an idea.
Wait a minute. Wait, whoa, breaking news. You're going to write something other than Longmire? And I'm going to be in it? Wow.
You never know.
That's pretty cool. What is it? Come on, man. You remember a few years ago, you and that guy on the show, the three of us had a few beers and we were trying to convince you, was it you, to write Don Quixote?
Oh, yeah.
I said we're going to call it Don Coyote.
Yeah.
His own wrong driver.
Numerous beers as
Oh,
well.
we had plenty, man. We woke tonight, and so he's in, he's in some kind of psychiatric, jail, or, he's completely gone, and he believes he's this noble, cowboy. And then there's this overweight, I don't know who could play that, from Mention War. His sidekick, he goes looking for treasure. He's really noble, he's got great manners and all. These women just fall in love with him, mostly older women. Anyway, why didn't we ever do that? Don Quixote. I thought it was a great idea. You like it?
Not enough beers in the night, not enough dead hours in the day.
Question. Where did the phrase come from? Yes, it is so.
There was actually a good friend of ours, Jimmy and I had this really good buddy of ours, Charles Whiteman, and he was the character that Lonnie Littlebird is based off of, and he would do that. He would yes, it is so, and he would always finish up the statements with that, and he was like really incredible. He looked like Joe Medicine Crow, which is another good friend of ours, like that, and he looked like the wizened, incredible Indian chief, and he would end those statements with, yes, it is so. And everybody in the room would just go, yeah. But he was kind of like, he was famous because he would fall asleep during meetings and they liked him chief. They were going to shout him, I chatted with him a number of times like that. But he had an incredible sense of humor, and I just love that character. And for me, there's a verbal tick that I can use to differentiate a character, because in many ways, you may think that the way a character looks is really important, and what Robert does, it is. That's one of the major factors in what that they do. But for me, like in a novel, what is it going to be that's going to differentiate those characters is going to be the voice of those characters, because you're reading that dialogue. And if you read that dialogue, and if I do my job correctly, I don't even have to tell you who it is that's talking. If I have a character who said, yes, it is so, you know who it is. Like if I have a character that doesn't use any contractions, you know which character that is. If I use one that has some extraordinarily colorful language, like that, you know which character that is. And so that's the way that I can differentiate those voices, like I do not have to tell you who it is that's talking. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. I've had a lot of people say to me, when I started your books, I had a little bit of a problem, telling who was talking, in a conversation. I said, but then after I got a few chapters in, I had it all completely figured out. Now that I've read 17 of them, it's perfectly fine. But it sometimes might take a little bit of time. It's in the books. It's in cold edition. Vic looks at Walts, says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm thinking." I do that sometimes before I talk. A little message to her.
The lady.
One of your future books were picked up to be a movie, and the production company chose Robert to play Walts. Who looked like to direct that piece?
This is Rob's, because I'm lousy at, come on. I was trying to get him to get Gary Cooper, for God's sakes. Victor Fleming, he would have been incredible.
I know. I choose in a second. We're done. Chris Julep.
Okay. Would you consider it if there was somebody
Sorry?
Unforgiven, would you consider Clint Eastwood?
I consider him, I'd say, well, why should I hire you?
drew you to this project?
What attracted you to this project? You get the resume? I don't know, man. Yeah. Consider it.
I'd love to see it.
Oh, yes.
I want to know what's wrong with being attracted from older women.
With being what?
Having older women be attracted to somebody.
The smart aleck remark you made about
About what?
Coyote, about him being attracted to older women.
No, that they're attracted to him.
Okay,
Well, he's an old guy.
okay.
And what the thing is that we're gonna do this show? 'Cause
Thank you for bringing that back up.
I mean, he's a throwback to a chivalrous time, and he's so romantic and full of flourish, and he's just not of this world. And the way he speaks to these women, oh my, am I digging a hole for myself? It's just,
It's a sense of romance, like a,
you know, maybe the.
But I think she's jabbing you a little bit there, I think is what she's doing there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can we get security over here?
This conversation is taking an uncomfortable turn. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's a great question. What do you like most about acting? What do you dislike? How long you got? I like going to different places around the globe, and you show up, and some guy or some gal picks you up at the airport, and sometimes they give you an envelope with some cash per diem, walking around money that happens less these days. I miss those days. That's great. And they take you to a nice hotel, and on the drive you say, okay, where are the good bars and restaurants? You know, where should I go? And that's where I go. And I meet all kinds of people. When you go to another country, all over the world, countries, you don't know anybody. You show up and just do it. Meet all these people, become best friends, have this great adventure. They pay you, which is weird. And then you leave. I mean, and it's a challenge. It's a, you know.
Tell me it's not the work. Tell me it's not the work.
Well, I think the work's a great challenge, and for me the challenge is, I think I've gotten a lot better at it the last 10, 15 years when I've stopped acting. You see all these young actors acting there, once the name's off. And the challenge is to just live in the moment. It's very simple. There's not much to do, but it's incredibly difficult to not do much. Just trust it. So I love those moments when it's cooking, but what's super frustrating is all the paraphernalia, and everybody is an expert on acting. Got all these people, you know. When I just did this movie, it's a very important movie about farmer suicide, funded by a bunch of farmers, and on the list of all the key creatives, words like that, there was an acting coach, and I said to my guys, I said, look, I want to do this, but what's the job? What's the acting coach doing there? Oh, no, that's not for you. I said, well, that needs to be clear. You need to tell them that person, respectfully, is never to speak to me. I mean, you know, I mean, does a train driver have a train driving coach? You know, I like the way you did that stuff. Let's workshop it. Maybe we can do it differently. I'm just, you know, what the hell? Does the caterers on a movie have a coach? Does the cinema, and bring all these people in, and they're all at you all the time. And I'm doing it at the moment, you know. I'm trying to. They won't be there 3 weeks early. Why? So all these people can just be at you and at you. And I was on the thing with a costume person, and you know, I've got to be strategic about getting my way without offending anyone. And then they often come out with all this cliches, you know, I'm thinking on a different level. I'm playing the guy, me, it's me. And so the frustration for me is just dealing with people. As much as I love people, it's just dealing with it because they're all in your business, because everything coalesces on the person in front of the camera. Everybody's, whatever they do in a movie, it's about that. So everybody, and I just want to be left alone. show up, do it, and then go to that bar or restaurant. Hopefully it's happy out, man, I don't know. But it's frustrating.
That's why I do what I do. Because I'm in a room all by myself, making all the choices, all the decisions, and doing it. Whenever I look at the actors, I'm always like, oh my God. It's just everything's by committee. Everything is in group. I'm just like that. I just wouldn't be able to do anything like that. So, and then while he was answering my question, I have to admit I was trying to think what the parts about writing I don't like. And you know what? There aren't any. Not one. I'll take every single one of them.
You again. What is it?
Craig.
Favorite old cowboy, old western cowboy.
Actor, character? Oh, Gary Cooper. Come on.
No, actually, it's an individual that Robert worked with, Robert Mitchell.
I worked with him. Wait. You said one. Bob, I call him Bob. He told me some great stories. Oh my goodness. It involved people dying and all kinds of and stuff that I can possibly mention. I'll tell you later. What a guy. He was a guy, you look at the script, and too many words, man, too many words. And all these young actors, dialogue. There's somebody up here.
This is for Craig. In all your previous novels prior to Hell and Back, Walt really holds Martha as the epitome, and she's almost a sacred image to him. And yet, in Hell and Back, you all of a sudden she's the face of evil. So I guess my question is, how did that
Did you just blow my latest novel right out of the water there? No. I think I can see where you're kind of going, like where you're heading. Walt does hold a great deal of reverence for Martha, but I think a lot of what that has to do with is the fact that they never got to finish their relationship. I think he feels a great deal of sorrow, and that like any real marriage, they were working on it, that they had problems, that they had difficulties like that, but they were working on those things, and maybe they were even making some headway, and then she died. And he was robbed of all of that time with her and all those opportunities with her. The thing you also have to remember, I'm not going to say that. When this is over, come up and say, hey, what were you going to say? And I'll say it to you, because I don't want to say that to anybody who hasn't read Hell and Back yet. So, sorry.
Way over there.
I have a question for each of you. So for Rob, how well known are you in Australia as compared to the United States? And for Craig, have you done any book tours in Australia?
I've gone my whole career trying not to be known. I've done everything I can to get out of publicity. Even feigning death, I'll do anything. Trust me. So I'm known. Yeah, I know they know me, but people know me. Some people always nod at me on the street if they just know the face, and you always turn back. I'm known, but not ridiculously, but it's affected my career that I've not done publicity because I find it embarrassing. Others believe.
Judy and I are on this Teleferique in Austria, going up to this German castle. And I look across, and there's a couple across the little gondola thing with us. And the guy's got a backpack, and it's got an Australian flag on it. And I said, "Are you Australians?" Yeah, we are. So we talk up, strike up conversation, because it takes 10 minutes to get to the top of this thing, and you're just staring at each other, so you might as well talk. And so we start talking like that, and he asks me what it is that I do, and I say I've got a series of books about a Wyoming sheriff that I write, and that I said, we kind of have a kind of strong feeling about Australia, as a matter of fact. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, we've got this TV show that they've made from the books, and it's got actually an Australian act, and they go, Bobby? I'm looking at the guy like, Bobby? Obviously much beloved. And No, I have not gone to Australia. Like, I had to do a tour. Well, I know. Like, the problem is Viking Penguin owns the English rights to all my books. Like, and so, you know, the chances of me going to like England or Canada or Australia are relatively rare, like that, because you know I've already got this big, huge publisher there, like that, and people can get the books without worrying about coming to see an event with me. But Robert keeps inviting me to come down, you know, and travel around and like do some book events like that. So inevitably we'll do that. But there are so many things down there that'll eat you.
I want to
Our
argue.
dangerous place, you know, sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies was Big Man. Gregory Peck.
Yeah,
And
Heston, and,
that,
yeah.
I love that movie because of the same reason why I love this book. Because it's not,
Thank you.
you not get, you don't get that much movie.
No, I mean, it's, you know, there's a very popular show on lately, and people keep asking me if I've seen it, and I'm like, well, no, not really, like that, and so I kind of watched like one half of one episode, and that was all I needed. And somebody asked me about it, and they said, well, what did you think about it? And I said, I'm kind of embarrassed by it. And they said, well, what do you mean? Like, I said, I'm embarrassed that people around the world think that that's the way we behave, you know, because we're not like that. You know, and they asked me, well, if Walt Longmire lived next to that family, what would he do? And I said, he'd have them locked up in a week.
Yes, sir.
Do what now, sorry?
Where did the name?
Oh,
Durant?
you know what? All right, so when I was rodeoing, like there was a buddy of mine that did rough stock events with me, Jeff Shelton, and Jeff, you know, was from, he didn't say it Durant, he was from Oklahoma, so he called it Durant, Oklahoma. And so we were rodeoing one time, and he got busted up, like, and they were hauling him away, and he'd broken some ribs, and you know, he turned an arm and all this stuff, like, and they were hauling him away to the emergency room, and he looked at me, it was like one of those moments out of a Lassie movie or something. He put his hand up, he's like, Craig, if anything happens to me, I know you want to be a writer someday. Well, just put Durant, Oklahoma in there if you would.
God.
Oh. Bar later that night, for God's sake. But I did remember it, you know, and so then when I was trying to come up with another name for a smaller version of Buffalo, I thought, you know what, Durant, Wyoming. That sounds pretty good. Because I'd come up with all these weird, like Antelope Junction, you know, things like that. That sounds like a really bad book. Like, and so then I thought, Durant, Wyoming, that kind of works. So that's what I did. The last time we were doing a quick run like that, we did, like, I think it's an event in, I think it was in Dallas, like that, and then we had to go up to Oklahoma City. And so we're whipping along on the highway, and the rental car, like, all of a sudden I looked at the exit, and I was like, holy crap! You know, I swing the car over like it was Durant, Oklahoma. And I mean, my poor wife had to travel around all over that town while I took pictures of every single time it said Durant. But it was so great because even the water tower had Durant, you know, on it. Like, and I started putting those on my website, and people were like, "That's so cool." They must have spent a lot of money to get that done. I'm like, yeah, they did.
Yes.
Back to this arm wrestle.
Sorry, Rich, one second, buddy. Yes. Yes, yes, she's a producer. She's very bossy. Actually, they both are. Yeah, it's tricky because, you know, she's super busy. Like, she's got a bunch of movies going, and she's really hit a purple patch. Yeah, I don't know, you just do it. Sometimes it's good to go away for a while. It's good for you both.
Does your mom ever help? Does your mom come over and help?
She's mean too. Sometimes Sometimes there's all three of them there.
Mom is great. She's really wonderful. She is.
When are you gonna get a real job? Oh, this is nice, this place you live in, Mom. What do they call this, a penthouse? Great view. I don't know, you just do. I think being busy is awesome. I love it. I love having too much to do and so many things. And I was thinking about it today, I just forget what I was meant to do yesterday, so it doesn't matter. Until there's a calamity and you get a call from whoever. So just do it. Just do it. Yeah, I might be busy. Yes, sir. Wait.
Frank, you mentioned that a lot of the characters in your books are based off of people you've met in your life. Did you really give people from the Old West or from the past that you get inspiration from when it comes to writing your books?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously like that. But then again, that's kind of common knowledge, between us, like that between writer and reader. So if I mention, a character that's an awful lot like a historical character, then you're probably going to pick up on who that is. So if I do that, then I have to be careful about things. There's the character like in Serpent's Tooth, Orrin Porter, I think it is. It was the Mormon gunfighter. And there's the homeless guy who thinks that he's a Orrin Porter, like that, and so that's kind of fun. So more probably I use those type of characters, that type of information, like that more on that line than anything else. There's going to be a high context kind of like informational process, between the two of us where I can do certain things and I know you're going to get it. I know you're going to understand that. Or if you don't, you run over the computer and go, that character, I know something, that's what it is, okay. And I like doing that, because it's a nice high context relationship, between the two of us. Like that, I have that kind of fun.
Rich, I think you were gonna ask something, was it?
Yeah,
You?
I want to go back to this arm wrestling. We gotta work something out.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Not until we can sell enough tickets.
The fellow, we'll do it for charity if we come back next year. And you can put up $500. I'll put up 500. Oh, there's a check. Yes, sir.
Rob, having been saved by the rain yesterday, do you really think you have any chance of winning the...
There's another one.
Walts?
Okay, let me just give you a little statistic. Hey, dude, there's an Englishman. There's a lot of them here, man. For the oldest sporting competition on the planet, it's called the Ashes. Australia beat England in 1877 in a little place in Melbourne, and someone put a notice in the Times of London said English cricket is being cremated and the ashes sent to Australia, and they sent in this little urn. Someone burned the article, so that little cheap urn is worth tens of millions of dollars, and they fight for this thing. It's a lot of tradition. Yeah, we won. So let me, so this series, we were 2-1 up, right? And then rain saved Australia. So we're 2-1 up. Last series, we won 4-0. So I don't know how good your math is, buddy. But that means out of the last 9 tests, we won 7, you won 1, and 1 was drawn. So cry me a river, man.
He thinks the lady doth protest too much here. I don't know. He's awfully sensitive, isn't he? Like that one.
I got the microphone. We'll have a beer later, and you too. There was another one somewhere. Okay. More questions? Oh, yeah.
How old were you all when you decided or had an idea that you wanted to work in respective
For me, like I came from a family of storytellers. They were all really, really good storytellers, and I was the worst one. And I grew up with that moniker. I was the one that couldn't tell a good story, and I just, I guess when I was younger, I thought to myself, if I can't say them, maybe I could write them. And that's kind of how it all started for me, like that. But and I said this the other day at the writing thing, like it was that wanting to be a writer in many ways is like wanting to be an astronaut, because the odds against you are so great. You might as well just not tell anybody that you're thinking about doing it. because it's gonna be embarrassing when you don't or you fail. And then if you do make it, like it's overnight success, amazingly enough. Like, look at that, I had that planned all along. And so, you know, the problem is life takes a hand, you know, and so I was always kind of working towards being a writer and wanting to be a writer, but there were a lot of other things in the way and things that I wanted to do. The other thing is like all the writers that I really enjoy, all the ones that I really respect, they didn't go right out of writing programs and write novels and, you know, New York Times bestsellers lists. They had lives, they had things that they did, you know, and experiences that they brought to the writing, which I think is essential, you know, to all of that. You know, I mean, you know, it's harder nowadays than it was, you know, back in the day. I think a lot more writers came from the working class, like, and nowadays it's not quite that easy, I don't think. So. Robert used to do puppet shows.
I kind of always wanted to do it, but I never met anyone with an interesting haircut. I don't know how to do it. How do you do that? So I, you know, I went to college a couple times, this and that, had various jobs and stuff. I told this story. I was working on an oil rig, a drill ship in the Indian Ocean, and I've been doing that for a few years. That was fun. Made a lot of money, made a lot of girls, traveled the world, whatever. You know, just kind of trying to find my way. I had a bad accident, like pretty bad. If I hadn't been so young and strong, I don't think I would have made it. And I was in the hospital, and there was a newspaper, and it had auditions for this acting school that was only then like 2 years old. And last year I was reading the Hollywood Reporter, it's the top 20 schools in the world. It was called the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts. So I thought, that's it, dude, I'll be a movie star. It's got to be less dangerous. So you know, I had no idea what I was doing. I just think I couldn't believe the ridiculousness that I presented, and they took me in on a full scholarship. So was that the question? 40 years ago. Oh, way in the back. Oh, the cheap seats. Sorry, what is the question?
Comparison was the phrase that you used the other day, like which was
Oh, I was complaining about
great acting,
technical
great
actors,
yeah.
great acting or great engineering. You know, there's the school of acting. It's very prevalent, and a lot of super famous people that win a lot of awards. And I don't like their acting, some of them, because I can see what they're doing. But that's me, you know. That doesn't mean they're not brilliant, but for me, if I can see what you're doing, I'm done. I'm gone. Oh, you're Ronnie. Is that Ronnie up there? Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't like it. You know, there's some very big actors, and sometimes you'll see an actor that's not so famous and just do something that's so believable, so real, and you just believe it, and they're on and they're off. And that's the way I try and work constantly. And like I said to the lady before, you're pushing back, because you can be on a set, and I've experienced you doing, and I've seen people doing that. And on face value, all the cute crew and everyone thinks it's amazing. I'm like, that doesn't work. It's soulless. You know, and when it's all cut together, there's something that's not there. And many times when I'm working, I remember the director saying, you know, this scene, just trust me, man, just trust me, trust me. You know, as I'm here, you know, looking out to the sea or something, you just don't do anything. And he said, dude, that scene is, yeah, but the pressure that is put on you to do something. And what's important is just to be. So that's where I was getting with that. Oh, hello.
I'm just curious, do you have anything on a bucket list or an adventure or something that obviously you would like to do?
Do I have anything on the bucket list, me or Craig? Oh. 20 things. There's 100 things. Yeah, I'll give you back shit. I don't know.
You said you had one on your bucket list the last time I saw you.
What was it?
You used to have a ranch in Wyoming.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Well, the problem is I have a child and, you know, it's not a problem, but it's about where you're gonna be and there's other things. I mean, you know, if I wasn't a married guy with a kid, I'd be living here and I'd have a place down under as well, but, you know, you gotta do the right thing. But, you know, I keep saying to my other half, I'm doing it. Anyway, bucket list. Of that.
No, I think the quote that I remember Rob using was like when he was describing his life. He said, we're a married couple. Like he said, and I wanted a place in the mountains, and she wanted a place in the beach.
Yeah.
And so we did.
I wanted to buy the ranch, and she wanted to buy this super duper place in Bondi Beach, you know, the most expensive beach in Australia. And, we compromised, and now we got this amazing place in Bondi Beach. It's just, it's just like everybody there. I lived there in the 80s, but blue collar, man. Nobody wanted to live there. Japanese shelled it in the war from the submarine popped up and put a few rounds into it. And these days, everybody's a supermodel. They're French, so you don't know where to look, man.
Probably do maybe
There we
like
go.
one or two more questions, and then we're going to be finishing out. So if anybody feels
Yes,
very
we-
strongly.
The lady in the back here.
So if you buy a ranch in Wyoming, would you consider having someone caretake it for
Is
you?
that Jess?
Yes.
This is Jess, who I met. She worked at the Paradise Ranch. We did the ride this morning, and I missed you. Clay was there. Yeah, I wish you were there. Just married a local guy. She has a little boy who I saw today, and he's gorgeous, and his name is
Walts.
Walt. And I've always wanted to ask you, but I was always afraid you'd say no. Does it have anything, was there any inspiration at all?
This is the one weekend of the year that, yes, he is named after.
Yes, it's for me, but is that your dad?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize it was you. Sorry, man.
No problem.
A couple people had their hands up. Yes.
Is that set behind you deliberate? So that not named finally finishes cow.
That's awesome.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well done. Have you been sitting there for an hour and a half? Thinking of that?
We've been that interesting, have we? Wow, that's great. Look, an outlet, look. Wow. Anybody else? Now's your chance. Sure, you.
Do you travel on book tours for all of your books? How much of your time do you spend there?
I'm a big one for touring. It's kind of funny like that because I put a notice out on social media because I just wanted to see what everybody else thought too. Like that, because to me, touring is really important. Like that, and right now all the publishers are doing smaller and smaller tours. Most authors go out for like about a week, maybe a week and a half at the most. The tour I've got coming up for September is going to be 26 different cities. And so, I like it. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, you guys, some of you have seen me for 12 years, here. And I don't think you can fake it. I think that, if you're having a good time and it's fun, people can tell. And I enjoy going out, and meeting with you guys and talking about the books and signing the books and all of that. And so, the tricky part is that, you'll do a month-long tour here, and then with the foreign rights, like that, you'll go over like that and say you do, a week in Spain, and then you do 2 weeks in France, and then you do another week in Germany, and then another week, in the Netherlands, like that. And then after a while, you're gone for 6, 7, 8 weeks, like that. And that's really kind of hard, because I've got a ranch, in Ucross, like that, so I need to get back. So I have to curtail my initial thoughts, whenever I'm doing those kind of things. I have to kind of cut it back a little bit, I have to admit. Anybody else? One last one, this is it. Sure. Is this gonna be another essay question?
Has Walt discovered yet that reindeer beer in Colorado?
You know, it's scattered around a bunch of different places. Like it's actually down in San Antonio, Texas, like at Golden, and I've been actually up in Seattle too. So now I got a story to tell. Here's one, I'll finish up with this one. Okay, so our prop guy for this show that shall not be named, when they were filming the show, in this strange place, like that didn't have reindeer beer, they would have to ship reindeer beer in truck skids, you know, at the beginning of the season. So they would ship these these truck skids in, you know, I mean, big pilot jacks, you know, full of reindeer beer, 12 packs and stuff. And so, but the problem is like while they were filming the show, they were going through a lot of beer. And so finally he got up there and he tells everybody, Dave Bauman, look at Dave gets up there and he goes, hey, he said, oh, yeah, you guys are, you know, wait, you know, all of you guys, like if they're in the background there, that we can't really see what you're doing, don't open the beer. Don't open it and don't drink it, for God's sakes. This stuff is like, we gotta ship it in. Like I said, don't do that. And so they keep filming, like, and it's still, the beer is going down. It's just disappearing. And finally, like Dave's in there doing something. He's working on something like that, working on some prop thing or something like that. And it's like 11 o'clock at night or something. And all of a sudden he sees somebody dart at Greer Garson Studios. Dart around.
I saw her.
Dart around behind where their cabin was and shoot through where the Red Pony Bar and Grill was. And then there's the pilot jacks of the beer and see somebody grab a couple of 12 packs and shoot for the back door. And Dave Bauman goes running after him and he's like, hey, said actor. Turns around and goes, hey. And Dave says, how are you?